Hey guys, welcome to another Mix Critique Monday. This is September the 26th, 2016. I just want to give a big thank you to everyone who keeps submitting these mixes. I think this is a really cool thing that we have going on here. And I think it's a great situation for everyone to learn. Got a lot of good feedback from last week. People seem to like what this is doing. Everybody can learn from this situation, even if you're not submitting the mixes, by listening and kind of following along at home and maybe making your own mental notes while listening will, of course, help train your ear, kind of help inform your decision making when not just mixing, but when listening, because critical listening is always an important thing. So this week we have some submissions from Tim Jones, Eamon, Gleeson. I hope I'm saying that right. Eamon, you even wrote in Eamon, but I believe that's how you meant for me to say it. If I'm not, let me know. Eamon, Gleeson, Tony Clark. We have Michael Foreman. We have a tweaked mix from improving on some of the suggestions I gave last week from Kilynn, and we have Martin Berg. So got a bunch this week. I didn't get a chance to get to them all. I don't want to make this too long and drawn out. So if I don't get to it, for example, this week, I'll get to the next week, so on and so forth. First come, first serve, of course, but I highly urge all of you to feel free to submit anything you like, anything you want me to check out or listen to, because I will definitely get around to it. So enough yapping. Let's go ahead and start listening. The first track, this is Lowdown from Tim Jones. Let's check it out. Cool guitar tone.
Is there something wrong deep between the lines? It's getting hard to swallow. Lost all self-control. These things you just can't hide. Better off alone.
Right there, I would maybe pull, I thought the background vocals kind of overpowered the lead a little bit there, but like the overall kind of vibe, it definitely, everything is kind of sitting in its own place. Just sounds a little bit thin to me at this point. I want to keep listening to see if you do anything different, but that could just be a little bit, rolling off a little bit too much on the low end. It could just be the way that you EQ'd some stuff, but I want to keep listening.
But I need you. Every line you swallow. One last shot to break me down. You tried to break me down. Like they tried to break you down.
Okay, I like the guitar tone a lot. I think it's really good. I think the vocals are the lead vocals are sitting in a good place. You have to excuse my sniffling. I got a little bit of a cold right now. But two things that I'm kind of wanting more of. I want some more kick. I'm hearing a lot of a clicky clicky kick. Say that 5 times fast. So maybe the sample that you're using there is a little too attack heavy. Maybe blend up some more of a weighty sounding snare drum, kick drum, where you're getting a lot of the like as if you had a kick out mic on the kick drum, getting a lot of that low end thump and girth. And I'm kind of struggling to hear a little bit of the bass. So a lot of this stuff sounds kind of rolled off on the bottom to me. So, I don't know if you're high passing like everything, which is good, but, having maybe too steep of a filter slope or doing too much of that can, of course, get rid of a lot of that valuable low end. It's kind of a delicate balance because you don't want something that's overtly muddy and, really woofy and subby sounding, but you also don't want something to sound thin. And with this kind of music, it's tough because with hard rock and metal and stuff like that, it's like you want to almost have that scoop sound where you're really getting that nice tight big low end, but you're also getting a top end that is really kind of hitting people in the face. So anyway, I'm just thinking out loud as always. So let's keep going.
All the things you say as the world burned down. Better off all alone, but I need you. I'm falling here from grace, far from everything I've known. I should have known. Why don't they understand me? How can they understand me? So let it go.
I don't know if you guys caught that. I really dig what you did there with the backing vocals. You kind of dirtied them up. I don't know if you ran it out to a sand or put some dirt on the track, but that was a really cool touch. See, in this breakdown right here, like what I really want is I really want to hear some more low end there. Really, you know, the bass is just, it's a little thin sounding to me. Even the floor tom that's going on there is a little thin sounding to me. You know, with those breakdowns, you really want to, you know, you know, it just kind of adds to the dynamic of that style of music. But I think that would really take your mix to, you know, to that next level. It already sounds good. I'm not picking on here or anything, you know, but I'm just kind of overall just wanting some more low end, some tight, big low end.
The times I try to pull you close, you always tear me down. You always tear me down. I'm falling here from grace, far from everything I've known. Yeah, sure, I will. How can they understand me? How can they understand me? So let it go.
Love the guitars. All right. Good job, Tim. Really dug the mix. I believe that was I think somebody submitted that same track last week from I think that's the song from the latest Boz Digital Labs mix contest. Love the crew at Boz, and yeah, he's a great guy. His plugins rule too. Plus 10 dB is awesome. The Hoser EQ, right? Anyway, great mix. I think it's really good. I think just with a couple of those low end moves that I was talking about would be really great, but I really liked your guitar tones throughout. Thought your lead vocal was nice. The backing vocals were a little bit loud. I would maybe pull those down a pinch, but there were like no super offensive frequencies to me that I was hearing in anything. So like I said, really well done. I think you have another track later on here towards the end. So yeah, well done. Next up, this is Losing Myself from the band Wolf Dagger. This is my man Eamon Gleeson. Hope I'm saying that right again, Eamon. And this is cool. What's cool about this, guys, is this is Eamon's band, I believe. They're like a blues rock band, and this is a live track. So kind of a little bit of a different scenario, a little bit something different to listen to. Mixing live recordings is a whole different ballgame from mixing your standard studio fare. So with that in mind, let's take a listen to Losing Myself.
Fuck it, Morty.
Yeah.
Guys, down to get some dirty tunes in your ears.
Love it already.
Out of sight, out of mind, I'm losing myself in you tonight. Feeling pleasure, digging treasure, I'm losing myself in you tonight. The grass is always greener on the other side, but there is something that you just can't hide. I'm losing myself in you tonight. I'm losing myself. No love lost.
I'm loving it so far. This is fantastic. It's always difficult to get good live recordings. There's a plethora of ways to record your band live. And if you're not running your own sound, if you're not dialing in the PA, if you're at the mercy of, a venue's sound guy, really, it just depends on his ear on what, he feels a good balance is between a three-piece band like this. I also find that like a lot of, stock club sound guys will, just kill your vocal, and not you personally, anyone, but just in general that, they'll put a ton of delay and reverb on your vocals, and it can be a tough, especially if you're playing acoustic guitar. It always sounds like it's, you're real ice picky and stuff. So, so far it sounded really good. It's really difficult when you have a live mix like this. Like if someone has like, hey, my band, we recorded our latest gig and we want you to mix it, or blah blah blah. What's difficult about it is unless all the microphones are going to some type of recording device, it can be almost impossible like to rebalance stuff and to like, make something dry that's already wet, like vocals and all this kind of different things. Now I'll be the first to admit that I don't do a ton of I've rarely done live mixing, and it's a different ballgame. But thankfully, this sounds really good. I hope you guys, Eamon and all the rest of the Wolf Dagger crew here, I hope you guys are recording this, because if you are, you're doing a great job. I think it sounds awesome.
I'm losing myself in you, feeling pleasure.
Personally, I could use a little bit more bass in this. So if, like I said, if there are different things that were recorded, like for example, if the bass DI, if you're going into a DI, into an amp and then out into the house, or however you guys had that set up, it definitely, it's tonally good. I could just use like 2 more dB of bass. I think that would really make this insane. In a good way.
The grass is always greener on the other side, but there is something that you just can't hide. I'm losing myself in you tonight. I'm losing myself in you tonight.
I think the drums sound awesome. Just want to say that for a live recording, drums sound killer.
I'm losing myself. I'm digging treasure. I'm feeling pleasure. I'm losing myself in you tonight. The grass is always greener on the other side. There is something that you just can't hide.
So I'm in the guitar nerd in me. I'm kind of hearing you're playing definitely a humbucking guitar. Les Paul 335 maybe. Dig your tone, like all that. You guys remind me a lot of, like, George Thorogood and the Destroyers, or oh man, just that that real bluesy kind of grind and drive in, a little ZZ Top in there, a little, yeah, it's very cool. All right. That was my man Eamon Gleeson, killing it. That was the band Wolf Dagger. Hey, if you guys live near Wolf Dagger, go check them out. Yeah, not too much to pick apart with that. It's really hard to kind of be super critical of live recordings, especially in mixing, because I don't know how many specifically how many faders you have to work with. For example, if each microphone on stage or each DI box on stage, is going out to, a desk that you're recording on, where then you can then take those tracks and bring them into your studio, and then it's a little bit easier. But if it's a type of thing where somebody threw a microphone up, or I don't know if you guys have seen those really cool Zoom makes, these HD cameras that have condenser mics in an XY kind of pattern up top, and they sound really good. But yeah, that was very cool. I think it's just very refreshing to get a live track like that, especially since it was played live. No click, rough, raw, rugged. It is what it is, and yeah, super fun. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. Great job. Next up, we have Standing There from Tony Clark. Let's check it out. When the Levee Breaks, Little Zap. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, awesome.
I never saw you standing there by the light. I never saw you standing there. Something's not quite right. My love will lose all when it takes.
I think you could pull your vocals down a little bit. They just seem to kind of be dominating some of the instrumentation going on right now, and the delay is really cool. If that's something that you want, if it's just something more to push the vocals back, you can maybe pull your sends down a little bit there. But let's keep going.
Takes everything, but now as I fall, am I gonna take you down with me? I never knew the difference between the you and the me. I never got the reference.
I like your panning. You're making smart decisions in terms of where to put the instruments to get maximum separation. Separation's important because you kind of want to give everything in your track a place to live, a place to sit. You don't want everything stepping on each other's toes. So, good job so far with that. One thing I'm kind of hearing is just a little bit of low mid buildup. So you might want to go on the mix bus, search for something around 300, 400, 500, 550. Just see if pushing any of that stuff up kind of, stimulates it in a negative way. And then you could pull out a dB or two. That might open up some of the low mids, just because when you have stuff like two acoustic guitars, an electric guitar, vocals, a lot of that stuff lives in the same area. So, just kind of, I think a few subtle cuts on the mix bus could really open this up.
From what was and will be. You are the teacher, you have the rules you suggest. Well, I knew the answers, but I still failed the test. I never saw you standing there by the light. I never saw you standing there. Something's not quite right.
I think in the lead vocals, you could take out a little bit of, to me, it just sounds like there's something around maybe like 250, 200 that I might get rid of, a dB or two, and then maybe something up around 400, 500 that you could kind of pull out. That, you know, by cutting that, it's going to actually make the vocal pop a lot more. You know, it's kind of the opposite, the inverse effect of boosting. If you cut low end, you're going to be boosting high end as a result, even though you're not really boosting high end. You know what I mean? So I might just you know, again, kind of like on the mix bus, like I was saying, just you know, search around, sweep, see if you hear anything, and if by removing any of that, it actually makes the vocal pop a little bit more. I feel like the bass and the guitars are fighting a little bit here. I know you were probably trying to do a bass solo, you know, or if that was a bass solo and then you go into a guitar solo, it's just a little tough because it's like, you know, it's they kind of want to fight, especially if you have the bass panned up the middle and then you kind of also have the guitar going up the middle. So just keep that in mind.
On the shore, I never caught a glimpse of where I looked before. I pushed away, I cut the lines, I set adrift the aimless mind. I found myself on the other side. I never saw you standing there by the lights. I never saw you.
One thing that I'm noticing with the bass too is it's a little bass heavy, so you know, maybe do a high pass. Put a high-pass filter on the bass, 6 dB per octave or a 12 dB per octave slope, and just roll off, you know, everything below like 30 hertz. I think you'll find that you won't lose a whole lot of that low-end emphasis, but it will actually tighten your bass sound up.
You're standing there, something's not quite right. My love will lose all when it takes everything. But now as I fall, am I gonna take you down with me?
All right, nice job, Tony. So yeah, overall, a couple EQ moves there I feel like would really help it out a lot. Maybe a little bit of automation throughout the track, you know, going from verse to the choruses. Automation is just like so important. One thing that I really want to stress, and I you know, I would love to do a more in-depth article on this or a more in-depth video, but you know, automation is such a big part of mixing. You know, we often think, and I did for years, is that, you know, you EQ something, you compress something, you go through your, you know, you sweeten things with effects and this and that, and then, oh yeah, you know, you're done, you're good. Oh, you know what, yeah, I'll bring the chorus up a dB or two and I'll pull it back. But there's just so much more than that. Like if you watch some of these, you know, some of these A-list guys mix, EQing and compressing and going through all those moves is just kind of the first half of it. You know, then it's almost like watching, you know, a conductor with an orchestra with how they're just all over the desk and everything's moving all the time and they're just so hands-on. And, you know, all right, the first pass we're gonna ride the vocals, then we're going to ride the guitars, then we're going to ride the drums, then we're going to, you know, it can make such a difference in a mix. And, automation isn't, you don't have to, know certain tricks or moves or frequencies or, attack and release times. Automation is more of a feel thing, right? It's like here versus here. So yeah, automation is important for anybody, but again, thanks for sharing that, Tony. Great job. And, I appreciate it. Next up we have the Situation Room, from Michael Foreman. So let's give this a spin.
It's 8:52 here in New York. I'm Brian Gumble. We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that.
The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed. The entire building has just collapsed as if a demolition team set off. When you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it's folded down on itself and it is not there anymore. I can hear you! I can hear you! The rest of the world hears you! And the people...
So I'm guessing so far there's been no vocals coming in. This is going to be an instrumental. Couple things right now. I thought when the band kind of came in, you had like that interlude, the intro. When the band came in, it was like a little, maybe you want it super intense like that. I actually had to kind of lower my volume in my cans. The guitars are just a little, I don't know what amp sim you're using, but they just sound a little on the harsh side and a little, I don't want to say fake, but like a little fake, like they're obviously sims. I would shoot me an email and let me know what you're using on that, or if you want to leave a comment below after I post this. I definitely do that, but based upon what you use or not or don't use, I can possibly recommend some other things. Sounds to me like you're using like an easy drummer or something like that. But so far it's really cool. I kind of like how you're, this is definitely a politically charged track, so you're kind of using all of these audio clips and samples to almost take the place of vocals. So far, it is definitely a cool and original soundtrack. Let's keep listening.
And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
I really like the bass. The bass sound is very nice. I think the playing is very good. It's really pocketed, and it's not overbearing. It's not too subby. It's not too thin. Really good job on the bass.
Well, what we heard here in Baghdad a few minutes ago was the air raid sirens going off. We could hear in the distance around the city the sound of anti-aircraft guns being fired.
When American forces finally caught up with Saddam Hussein today, he was hiding in a crawl space, a spider hole, the military called it, underneath the floor of a small shack outside his hometown of Tikrit. He was described as disoriented at first, and then, as time went by, unrepentant and defiant. After 10 months hunting him, in the end, the man who has gone from American ally to American nemesis surrendered without a fight.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
Really dig that breakdown. Really like that filtered kind of drum thing you got going on there. I think it adds a really nice contrast overall to the track.
Yeah, I mean, the commander-in-chief responsible, and you know, I wish we'd found weapons of mass destruction.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
Happening now, breaking news, Paris terror fear. Multiple people are reported killed in a shooting. There's also word of possible explosions outside the National Stadium and a hostage situation unfolding right now as well. We're following a night of unfolding terror right in the heart of the French capital. I'm Wolf Blitzer, you're in the Situation Room.
That's a heavy track. I don't just mean musically. Definitely a heavy track topic, topic-wise. But that's cool, man. I definitely that's what's beautiful about music, right? Is it's a great way to vent and express everything that you're feeling here and here. And yeah, overall musically, I thought it kind of fit with the vibe. I kind of liked how that lick, the guitar lick, was almost like a kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? A modal, Middle Eastern kind of thing. Obviously, a very heavy influence towards all of the terror issues around the world right now. So, artistically it fits. The guitars are cool, heavy drums, heavy guitars. I really like the bass on that. So, I might just, maybe try a different amp sim in terms of, I'm not sure what you use on there, like I said, but just a little, sometimes they can get a little too compressed sounding. That's what some amp sims to me kind of fall short with is, it on the top end, it really compresses the guitars instead of letting them like bloom, and kind of stay chimey and stay present. They just kind of get almost fizzy. But hey, good job. Thanks for submitting that, Michael. Really appreciate that. That was the Situation Room. Next up, pretty stoked to take a listen to this. This is Delayed Zephaniah. This is from Kilynn, who submitted last week. He went through and tweaked and did some of the things that I recommended. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Delayed. The acoustics sound cool. I like the, right away you can tell that they were tracked through microphones, which is cool. I would maybe put like a real small room reverb on them to almost give the impression that they were tracked in a bigger room than, say, a control room or something like that, but not a huge room like a like a space like a cathedral or something like that, but just like a small room sound. There's something that I use on the Sonics Oxford Reverb, which is called it's a preset called Office, and it basically emulates like you're actually in an office space. But it doesn't really matter. All you can do is you can use like a really short room, because all you want to do is you want to make the guitars kind of go from here, where they're coming out of the speakers, and you feel like they're here, and you just want to pull them back just a little bit, not too far back, but just a little bit, just to give them like a little bit of a live, not a live feel, but a more, this was tracked live as opposed to overdub. Just a thought. That's all.
It's more than your smile, stronger than the words you speak, heavier than the air you breathe.
I would say pull the vocals up a little bit, just a couple dB.
Could never be just glued to the screen. What you slightly obscene to me in the palm of her hand. She holds her window into reality. A total reenactment of the day before. Delayed spring into action, nothing evermore.
I'd also probably send the drum bus, set up an effects end, and again, I'd maybe put a little bit of room reverb on the overall drum kit, just to give the drums a sense of space and a little bit of sense of depth. I think that would help a lot.
At the end of the day, I still remain unsure. I still remain unsure.
Love the guitar tone, love the solo.
There comes a day when we all change.
What I would have done there for the solo and even in the choruses is definitely ride a little bit of automation. It's almost tough to hear if you're doing it. I probably might have mentioned it last week. I can't specifically remember, but if you are, I would say you can definitely go a little bit more extreme on it. You can throw it up a few dB, bring it back. To kind of have that guitar solo be, kind of a crescendo, kind of a pinnacle of the song. It's almost a little static. So just maybe a few automation, fader rides might help that out. Well, will help that out a lot, I'm sure.
Loving never stays the same. Loving never stays the same. She is glued to the screen, which is slightly obscene to me. A total reenactment of the day before. Delayed spring into action, nothing evermore. Nothing evermore. When's it
Very nice. Yeah, from last week, I could definitely tell that you went in and made some tweaks. Overall, it's a much more cohesive mix. It's a much more balanced mix, and of course, as a result, it definitely sounds better. Great job Super proud of you for that. One thing that I would do in that outro, something that I like to personally do on my mixes is, when you have a driving outro, whatever you want to call it, a final chorus that, kind of climaxes, and then you have like that fade out. I would take your master fader and slowly ride it up. Like you can draw it in or you can do it by hand, but just take your fader and just slowly go. I mean, barely push it, but like the difference is from when you start it to when it finishes, might be something like 3-4 dB, where it's just slowly getting louder, because it's kind of like a psychoacoustic trick where the listener isn't really going to notice it because it's not an immediate thing, but it is going to add a much bigger sense of excitement, and it's going to kind of drive that outro home, so you just slowly push it up, boom, and it gets a lot bigger towards the end. Just something fun you can play around with and try. Just an idea. So thanks for that, Kilynn. Really good job on the update. Definitely doing your homework. Proud of you. Love to see it. All right. So I had to go trade in. It was about time to trade in my tea for a nice cold beer here. My one of my favorite beers is some good old Shiner Bock by Shiner Beer. Big fan. Highly recommended. So cheers to you guys for thanks for submitting all this stuff, all these mixes. I really appreciate it. I know that it can, like I said last week, it can be a very anxious feeling to kind of put yourself out there, to put your mixes out in public, and as I've said before, this isn't a critique. There's no malicious, no negative attacks on anybody. This is all constructive criticism. This is all positive stuff. I want you all to elevate your mixes, to get as good as you can. That's why I do this stuff. So I really, really hope that it helps. And I think you're all taking it on board, as a great example here from Kilynn with the revamped mix of Delayed. And and for those of you who don't want to submit, listen, I get it. It can be a scary thing to put yourself out there, if you don't feel like you're ready yet. So that's okay. But just definitely follow along, listen. Just kind of play it over in your head and just think about, what do you hear? What would you do? What do you like? What don't you like? What would you change? And a lot of times, sometimes you don't even change anything. It's a great mix. So next up, we got two more to go. This is In the Fields by Tim Jones. Then we have Vacuum Edition from my man Martin Berg. So let's go ahead and listen to In These Fields by Tim Jones. First thing that I'm noticing is obviously you tracked your acoustic with the pickup and your acoustic electric. So as you know from last week, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think if you have a microphone, any microphone, you could literally take an SM57 and mic up your acoustic with it. I think that will always sound better than a pickup. If you're going to blend your pickup with a microphone, you can do that, especially if it's a dense rock mix. I think you can get away with the pickup where you want your acoustic to really cut through. But if it's something sparse like this, I think a microphone always wins. That's just a taste thing, of course. If you like it better, then you like it better. And, that's okay. I'm just simply thinking out loud as I'm listening. So. Guessing this is an instrumental. We haven't had any vocals yet. Love the way the bass sounds. Definitely have to commend you on the way that the acoustics are panned. I think that they're sitting in their own spaces very well. In my headphones, I can kind of, hear that you've hard panned things. I'm a big fan of LCR panning. For those of you who don't know what LCR panning is, it stands for left, center, or right. I don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole right now, but the concept is that there's only 3 panning positions that you will pan instruments to. Hard left, hard right, or straight up the center. I don't always do it, but I do it a lot, and I have reasons for it. I should probably do another video on why I do it. But anyway, I like how everything's sitting right now, and I like when the band comes in. It sounded really cool. Piano sounds nice, really nice. Really like how you dropped out all the instruments right there. Little bit of a lull, band back in, boom. You get a really, really nice dynamic shift, dynamic swing. It keeps things interesting because if you have an instrumental track and there's no vocal, right, it's kind of like, all right, if there's a vocal in a tune, that's always the most important instrument. If there's not, then if it's an instrumental, then you kind of have to figure out which instrument in the mix is the most important instrument. In this song, I would argue it's the guitars because they're kind of driving the whole thing. But in instrumentals, it's all that much more important to keep the listener engaged, to keep them amused, to not get to not lose them. And I think you're doing a good job of that here. All right. Great job, Tim. Yeah, that was, I guess, the second instrumental from today. But yeah, again, really good job on, and if you look at the waveform, you can actually see the dynamic changes just visually, right? You got a, nice delicate intro you're starting there, and then it gets, the band comes in, you can just tell it's where that first swell in the waveform, and then it gets quieter again, then it gets louder again, then it gets quieter again. And these are all very important elements of, mixing instrumental tracks and keeping the listener engaged. I mean, it's hard to keep a listener engaged when there's vocals in the track, let alone when there's not. So, good job. If I could change a few things personally, like if I was producing it, I would mic up all the acoustics, but then there were some parts where it almost sounded like you had an acoustic or two that were mic'd, and then a couple that were being played via the pickup. And like I said, you might like that. So, hey, that's a taste thing. there was a couple spots there where I thought it could use a little bit of a low-end bump just to give it a little bit, kind of fill it out on the bottom. Some things that I like to do for that would be on the mix bus. I might take a high-pass filter and then put a bump, wherever the slope is. So like, let's say you have a 12 dB per octave slope and you're high-passing everything below 30 hertz. Well, I might go ahead and then do like a little bit of a boost around 50 so that, I'm trying to think how it might look, so that if you're kind of, here's your slope, you might put a little bump right here in, so here's your high pass, and then, you're doing a little bit of this. You might want to play around with where it's going to sound the sweetest. It might not be 60, it might be 100, it might be whatever, but that could be one way of doing it. Maybe taking a passive EQ, something like a Pultec, where you can boost and attenuate the same frequency at the same time. On my mix bus, I will always put a Pultec, and I will usually take 20 hertz, boost it 4 dB, cut it 3 dB, and it just kind of does this push and pull thing where, I know 20 hertz kind of sounds ridiculous, but it just fills out the low end of the mix in a very nice way. The new Lindell Audio TE100 from Plugin Alliance, you can do it on there. I think the SPL Pass EQ, also from Plugin Alliance, can do that. So yeah, there's EQs out there where you can boost and cut things around the same place. Also on a Neve, you could take a 1073. You could click on I think it's 50 hertz is the first position on the high pass, but then you could take like the 35 hertz or the 60 hertz low shelf and boost the low shelf. So, you're kind of cutting the lows, right? But you're kind of doing this a little bit. So, just an idea there, a way to fill it out. All right, last up, we have Vacuum Edition from Martin Berg. Martin, I apologize. The way that you labeled this, there was a lot of stuff on it. It's a Chapman entry and Frog Leap Studios. So I'm not 100% sure what the title of the song is. Frog Leap Studios Chapman entry Vacuum Edition. That's what it said. This is Martin Berg, and this is just kind of like a short little track. It's like a minute long. So let's go ahead and listen to this one from Martin.
Why won't you want me? I am still right here where you left me. I never disappear. My time is now. I will make you mine.
Really dig the music. I think the instrumentation is sitting well. I just think the vocals are a little bit loud. I would maybe pull the vocals down a little bit.
With good or with evil, I will make you mine. I will make you mine. I will make you mine. I will make you mine.
All right. Very cool. All right, Martin. Yeah, definitely good job with the band. Was really digging the guitar, bass, and the drums. I thought I could hear all of them okay. My only thing there was that the vocals were pretty loud and up front. They were kind of dry. If you like the dry vocal thing, and you want the vocals to stay up front, that's cool. The only thing that I would always recommend is try and use a small room or a very short plate or something like that, even maybe a very short slap delay, like a mono slap, and just try and massage the vocal back a little bit where it will still sound dry, but you won't hear any audible reverb or any audible delay, where it just takes the vocal from being right here and it just goes whoop, and just pulls it back just a little bit. Interesting story. Was reading an interview from Billy Bush, who works with Garbage. I believe he mixed some of the stuff on Jake Bugg's first record. Point is, Rick Rubin, the famous Rick Rubin, was produced the Jake Bugg record, and apparently Rick Rubin hates reverb. So he's like, I don't care if you put reverb on it. He's like, but if I hear it, I'm vetoing it, and it's not going to be on the track. So, like I said, if it's one of those things, there's ways to do it where you can actually use a little bit of reverb, but where you won't hear it and the listener won't be like, wow, that vocal is totally drenched in reverb. So, thank you for that, Martin. I appreciate it. And a big thank you to everyone. Okay. Tim Jones, Eamon Gleeson, Tony Clark, Michael Foreman, Kilynn, and Martin. Okay. Thank you guys so much for submitting. I didn't get a chance to, I have some more mixes that we're going to get to next week. But as always, I definitely want to urge and implore everybody out there watching, everyone on the email list, definitely throw me some mixes, anything you want me to check out, anything that you want me to listen to, even if they are tweaks and updates of stuff that I've already critiqued. I would be more than happy to do that for you. Anything that will help you improve your mixing and become better, a better overall audio engineer in the long run, right? We're all musicians, we're all audio guys. All we want to do is get better. So anything I can do to help. If you have any questions about any of the comments that I made, about any of the critiques that I made, shoot me an email if it didn't make sense, and I'll try and help it explain it a little bit better for you. All right, so this has been a Mix Critique Monday, September the 26th, 2016. My name is Pete with MixBetterNow.com. Thank you guys for submitting, and thank you guys for watching, whoever didn't submit. Either way, you guys all rock, and I hope you have an awesome day, and I will catch you next time.